All right, well, after taking a week off of the podcast, we are back this week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Thank you for tuning in. A lot to talk about this week. In the next segment, we'll talk about my reaction to the FBI's investigation into the NCAA. The most notable team up to this point, University of Arizona. Head coach Sean Miller was on FBI wiretap, allegedly talking about payments, $100,000 payment for DeAndre Ayton, to DeAndre Ayton, for him to go to University of Arizona. We'll talk about that. And quite frankly, not really surprised, but we'll talk about that more in the next segment. Also, Jimmy Butler being out for at least the rest of this regular season. Who knows if he'll be back for the playoffs, but thank goodness it wasn't a torn ACL, just a meniscus tear. But is it Coach Tom Thibodeau's fault for running his star players into the ground, going back to Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah? Or, quite honestly, is it a combination of that or this new culture of hashtag no days off where, work out every day, think about your competition. They're trying to outwork you, so you need to outwork them. And who knows if that plays a role as well. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But first, Vikings, quarterbacks. Who's going to be the quarterback for the Vikings going into 2018? I don't know. But here's the thing. There's been some news with the Vikings this week, the last couple of days, in regards to the quarterback position going into next season. Number one, the Minnesota Vikings are reportedly not expected to franchise tag Case Keenum. And to that I say good, great, fantastic. That's exactly what the Vikings should do, not tag Case Keenum. And I know that the Case Brigade, as I call them, also known as Case Keenum apologists, they're not very happy. The Case Brigade is not happy. And you know what? What is it that I've known, and no disrespect to anybody that follows me or anyone that follows sports in Minnesota. What is it with this certain group of Minnesota fans that has this unapologetic love fest for certain players that may not live up to what it is that you hope that they would do, or they're a bit of underachievers? I go to Ricky Rubio, Andrew Wiggins, and now Case Keenum. What is it with this? I know what I see in front of the TV, and I don't care what the numbers say, and I don't care that they underachieve in these areas. Just give them time. We love them so much. What is it? And lately, that's Case Keenum. He's a new guy. Case Keenum, he earned the job. He fought through adversity. Oh, give me a break. Look, not to take anything away from him, okay? I'm not taking anything away from this dude. Case Keenum, he's been a career journeyman. He had a pop-out year with a phenomenal supporting cast. You still got to make the throws. I give him that. But the Minnesota Vikings have this window. If they're thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, whereas you have this small window, this rare opportunity that only comes around once in a while to possibly win a championship. Now, are they going to actually do it? Who knows? After last season, I'm like, you know what? The way that it ended, Case Keenum had an awful playoff performance. I don't care what nobody says. Oh, the miracle play. He had no choice but to throw that miracle play, which could have been intercepted if Marcus Williams didn't slow down, or if he simply tackled Stephon Diggs in bounds. Who knows what would have happened. But he had no choice but to make that throw after damn near throwing that Saints game away twice with the interception and the duck pass to Adam Thielen, which luckily he came down with. Oh, and by the way, speaking of that play, which led to the field goal by Kai Forbath, according to Judd Zolgad of 1500 ESPN, he said it was that throw, that duck pass to Adam Thielen, which set up that field goal to take the brief lead ahead of the Saints. I believe, what was it, 23-21 or 24-23, I couldn't remember. It was that play in which he came down, which Adam Thielen hurt his back. Okay, he damn near threw the game away twice. I don't care what nobody says. And then in the NFC Championship game, look, I get it. The defense fell apart. They were weak. They got blown apart by Nick Foles. They made Nick Foles look like Johnny Unitas. They made Torrey Smith look like Hines Ward. I get it. The offensive line was crappy. The defensive line was crappy as well. I get that. But I'm sorry. If you're Case Keenum and you're trying to go out there, this is a contract year for you, you're trying to go out there and get paid and show the world that everyone was wrong, even though you broke all the records at the University of Houston. All these teams were wrong about me, and I'm finally having my breakout party. You play the most important position in all of sports, okay? Not everything's going to go your way. Not everything is going to go your way, okay? There are certain times, there are certain moments where, things are just going to fall apart. How do you respond to that? Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, right? His defense gave him no support whatsoever. How many times in that Super Bowl against the Eagles were you saying, man, if the Patriots could just get a stop on defense and give Tom Brady a chance, who knows what will happen? And it seemed like that it may have happened once or twice, but for the most part, Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Peterson had their foot on the gas. And guess what? Tom Brady still threw for 500 yards and still gave his team a shot to win that Super Bowl. Case Keenum, right? When everything is going well, when you're playing with a lead and the defense is living up to the number one ranked defense in the league, and you're getting the constant third and short situations, Case Keenum's great. But guess what? In the playoffs, everything isn't going to go your way. How do you respond to that? And there is no justification for Jerick McKinnon leading the team in targets. Oh, let me take that back. He tied for leading the team in targets with Stephon Diggs, okay? And then led the team in receptions in that NFC Championship game. There is no excuse for that whatsoever, especially while you're getting smashed. You're getting smashed the entire game, and you're throwing check down after check down. Come on, you had no problem being extra aggressive in that regular season game against the Washington Redskins when you were comfortably up in that game, right? You had no problem being aggressive in that game, but in an NFC Championship game, this is your chance to prove everybody wrong. You were nowhere to be found. So, you know what? Kudos to the Vikings. You shouldn't restrict yourself. I don't care. I've been listening all season long national media. Oh, Case Keenum, he earned the right. He earned the right to be the starter next year. Yeah, whatever. The Vikings should not be forced to franchise tag Case Keenum to necessarily compete with Teddy Bridgewater for starting quarterback position going into 2018. Then we get to Teddy Bridgewater. It's also been reported that Teddy Bridgewater, the NFL will not toll Teddy Bridgewater's contract into next season. So he's going to be a free agent. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And to that, I say good. They shouldn't have told his contract. That would have just burnt all the bridges with the Minnesota Vikings, even though they were trying to come across, hey, it's not our fault. It's the NFL trying to do it. Teddy Bridgewater would have been pissed off. You would have burnt that bridge after building this relationship that you have with him, as far as you love him so much and you wouldn't name Case Keenum the starter. And, Teddy, we just want to get him back out there. You didn't want to do that. And I wouldn't necessarily rule out Teddy Bridgewater possibly coming back next season, especially if they're not successful in landing Kirk Cousins, which gets me to my big point. I'm all in on Kirk Cousins, damn it. I am all in on Kirk Cousins for a couple of reasons. Number one, his production speaks for itself. The man has thrown over 4,000 yards in each of the last 3 seasons, nearly 5,000 in 2016. And last year, I believe I'm looking at this right. Last year, he finished 5th in total deep pass completions of 20 yards or more. All right, he's throwing to B- and C-level receivers the entire time, right? He got sacked 41 times last year. That's 5th most in the league. And he still finished top 10 in completion percentage, passing yards, and yards per attempt. All right, Pro Football or Football Outsiders has them ranked, the Washington Redskins last year ranked, as the 24th ranked pass protecting offensive line last year, and still threw over 4,000 yards. Come on, man. And that's with a crappy team. And the Washington Redskins organization is crap. You're talking about an owner who always loved RG3 over Kirk Cousins. And then not only that, all the stupid deals that they've done, that is such a dysfunctional organization. I get that Dan Snyder's heart is in the right place because he grew up a Washington Redskins fan, so he just wants to see the team win. But owners just should not get in the way. And too many times he got in the way of his own franchise. You franchise tag Kirk Cousins the last 2 years, and after that you say, you know what? We're done with you. We're going to go with Alex Smith. That's what? What? And you're going to pay him, what, $94 or whatever it is, $1 million? That's ridiculous. So I don't want to hear nothing about, well, why did they pass on him? Because they're idiots. That's exactly why they passed on him, because they're idiots. They don't know what the hell they're doing. It doesn't matter what talent they get in there. As long as that owner is still there, they'll never be worth a damn. So I don't want to hear anything about the Redskins, but we talk about Teddy Bridgewater. When he didn't have an ideal circumstance, he thrived. He didn't put up the numbers that Kirk Cousins did, but when you're talking about late game situations or you need a play, Teddy Bridgewater was that guy. He adjusted to the scenarios that was presented to him. Case Keenum, when things weren't around him, when things aren't going his way, but even before he got to Minnesota, he was a journeyman. I mean, he was never necessarily a bad quarterback. He was okay, but he was never that quarterback where you say, oh, snap, this guy might have something, until he finally gets to the Vikings where everything's perfect, a great offensive line, great receivers, a good running game despite Dalvin Cook being gone, number one ranked defense, right? You come here, all of a sudden things are going well. When things aren't going well, who are you? You go back to that career journeyman that you've always been. So the fact that Kirk Cousins has done that with a roster that has never been ideal for him, and then not only that, their defense has never been great. Their secondary has been okay, but their overall defense, while he's been there, has never been great as well. So, look, give Kirk Cousins this team, I think he would thrive. And that's the thing. We would not put the Vikings, the way this team is built, we would not put the onus on Kirk Cousins. We would not force Kirk Cousins to carry the team on his back like he was forced to do with the Washington Redskins. Now, here's the thing you're going to get with Kirk Cousins, okay? And I said this on the podcast of the preview of the Redskins game, as far as, previewing that game. What was it, week 10 or whatever it was? I said, look, the thing about Kirk Cousins is, and why I did predict the Vikings would win that game, is because he is going to throw the ball up for grabs. He is going to do that, and that is absolutely right. And for those that are saying, well, he's going to throw interceptions, you're right. He's going to put the ball up for grabs. But here's the thing that I emphasize the most. Number one, again, he's throwing to bum receivers the entire time. Number two, look, how many times during this past season, how many times after a game, after Sundays or Monday nights, whatever, did we sit there and say, man, Case Keenum, those couple of throws he made in that game, I don't know. We did that damn near every single week, okay? And look, not only that, but, he's not Tom Brady. He's not Drew Brees. Well, who is, right? Those are some rare, talented quarterbacks. You're not going to find those guys. Just because you can't find a Tom Brady doesn't mean you can't win the Super Bowl. Nick Foles just won the Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl. Eli Manning twice. Peyton Manning on his last legs. You need a team, a surrounding team, a supporting cast that's going to complement your quarterback skill strengths, right? You need a coaching staff as well. I think Kirk Cousins, with his productivity the last 3 years, it speaks for itself, with a team with a surrounding cast that hasn't been ideal for any type of quarterback for that matter. And also the fact that for him, he's never had a run. Going to the running game of the Redskins, the 2 out of the 3 years that he's been a full-time starter, the Washington Redskins running game has averaged less than 4 yards per carry, right? So this Vikings team would not put the onus on Kirk Cousins to carry the load. So his productivity speaks for itself. And number two, his durability. He hasn't suffered any type of major injury. He's able to finish every single game of every single year. I think with this window that the Vikings have right now, I think you owe it to yourself, if you're Rick Spielman, to go after Kirk Cousins and make a bargain with, not a bargain, but go after him. If the Jets want to pay over $30 million, then I'm out. It's whatever, dude. He deserves his money. Don't get it twisted. Because of idiot owners that want to give Mike Glennon and Brock Osweiler 18 or 14, $15 million a year, and we're going to sit here and scratch our heads. Well, I don't know if Kirk Cousins is worth $25, $30 million. You damn right he is, because of these idiot owners that give any damn quarterback that shows up and says, I can throw the ball, give me a contract, and they do it. So the fact that his productivity speaks for itself, and his durability, the fact that he's been able to last, is why Kirk Cousins, to me, is number one on my list. If you don't get him, I go for Teddy Bridgewater. The reason why I don't go after Teddy Bridgewater first, and I'm a big Teddy Bridgewater guy. All last season, I was like, look, if you have the opportunity to get Teddy Bridgewater in the game, as far as in the season, and see what he's got now that he's medically cleared to play, go right ahead. And worst case, if he stinks, bring back Case Keenum. Why? Because he's been a career journeyman his entire career. No sweat off your back. However, going into next season, with this window of opportunity you have, Kirk Cousins is a guy that you can plug in onto this team and just take off and see what happens. With Teddy Bridgewater, I still believe there's upside there. All right, I'm not getting off the Teddy Bridgewater train. I still believe, whether it's with the Vikings or somebody else, I still believe he can be a damn good quarterback. However, even if he does reach that ceiling, which I think he does have a high upside, even if he does reach that upside, there's going to be a learning curve. No matter how you slice it, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some time needed for this dude to get caught back up to speed, going against real NFL defense. Yes, he's going to go through training camp, and, they're wearing shorts and pads, or not even pads, but shorts and shirts, whatever. Maybe like the upper pads, but not much contact. You're not going to be able to hit him. Going into the preseason, you may be going against some real defense, but they may be playing at half speed, especially with some vanilla defensive styles. And then when the regular season starts, that's when you're going to see the all-out defenses going after you. So there's going to be some time. You have to at least anticipate that there's going to be some time needed for Teddy Bridgewater to get back up to speed. Are you willing to go through that for, at the expense of this defense? Because this defense is in their prime right now. The defensive players that you got right now, everything that you've got set up, are you willing to waste that opportunity to allow Teddy Bridgewater to get back up there? And who's to say that he will get there? There's a chance that he won't. He suffered a catastrophic knee injury. That's why Kirk Cousins, to me, his durability and productivity, that's the guy I would go after, number one. And if you can't get him, Teddy Bridgewater. If you can't get either of them, then we are absolutely screwed. So hopefully they can get at least one of those two quarterbacks. But real quick, I'm going to go into the next segment, but real quick, got some more stuff to talk about Vikings related. Just wrote an article for the Viking Age, so I talked about in the last podcast. I'm now a contributor to the Viking Age of Fansided. I wrote about an article in regards to Jarius Wright. Going to talk about that, but real quick.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt of the hashtag NFZ, a.k.a. No Fly Zone, now officially part of the BGC Sports Network.
You can also find the show on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/spell it out, hashtag NFZ, and the Apple Podcast app.
Now, let's kick it back over to Realistic Randy and the Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast.
So like I said, wrote an article for the Viking Age in regards to Jarius Wright. So if you've been following this podcast for a while, I've been very vocal of the fact that Jarius Wright has been one of our more reliable receivers, our more reliable weapons on offense for the last several years. And for whatever reason, the last 2 seasons, they have grossly underused Jarius Wright in favor for guys like Cordell Patterson and Laquan Treadwell. And I don't understand how we can sit here and come up with every excuse possible to keep Matt Khalil, Christian Ponder, and Blair Walsh on the field, but a guy that's been productive since his entire career, you find a reason, find an excuse to keep him on the bench. Here's the thing, as far as looking at the numbers of Jarius Wright, as far as in his career, Jarius Wright in his career, his 6-year career, he's averaged 13.3 yards per reception with a catch percentage of 67%. In the last 2 seasons, even though he's had limited snap counts, he's averaged 79% and a 72% catch percentage, respectively, in the last 2 years. Okay? Then you go to guys like Cordell Patterson and Laquan Treadwell. So Cordell Patterson in 2016, he had 500. That was his breakout year, right? And so, again, like I said, Jarius Wright should be the slot receiver. He should have been the slot receiver. And going after Alshon Jeffrey last year, I was like, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? We have Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and Jarius Wright. Why the hell do we need to go after Alshon Jeffrey? But anyway, 2016, Cordell Patterson, that was his breakout year. He had 531 snaps to Jarius Wright's 119. It took Cordell Patterson 70 targets to get to 453 yards, whereas Wright, in his last year of regular playing time in 2015, it took him 50 targets to get to 442 yards. We're talking about efficiency here, all right? I don't care that you took Cordell Patterson in the first round, whatever it is you took him. He was a high draft pick. And this is the thing about Rick Spielman that just drives me nuts. I don't get it. It's like every year there's some puppet that we just got to keep force feeding down the fans' throats. Hey, come on out there. Let's see what he got. And you will just force him out there until his contract runs out, or finally where the coaching staff is like, look, we can't work with this dude. I don't understand. Jarius Wright is the better receiver. He was better than Cordell Patterson in 2016. He's better than Laquan Treadwell now. And speaking of Laquan Treadwell, who got 500 snaps compared to Jarius Wright, Jarius Wright's 254 in 2017. He got double the snaps of Jarius Wright, right? Laquan Treadwell finished with 20 catches on 35 targets for a catch percentage of 57%. There is no justification for Laquan Treadwell playing over Jarius Wright. Why? Because you drafted him in the first round, which was stupid, by the way. I said that at the time. Look, drafting, unless you know that this receiver is going to be Julio Jones or Antonio Brown, whatever, you don't need to draft a receiver in the first round. Receivers come a dime a dozen. Stephon Diggs was drafted in the fifth or sixth round. You can find receivers anywhere. And the fact that we didn't even need Laquan Treadwell. At the time, I was like, we need offensive linemen. We need to draft as many offensive linemen as possible. But certainly not wide receivers, and especially a wide receiver who's not fast and came off that, catastrophic leg injury he suffered at Ole Miss. I said that was stupid at the time. But I'm like, all right, fine. You want to draft Laquan Treadwell? Fine. His first year, he's proved that he can't run routes and get separation. His second year, he did the same thing. He's known more for his blocking skills than actually being a receiver. And I brought up the example of the Carolina game. You're down 31-24 in Week 14 against Carolina, right? Your final possession, you're in a 4-receiver set with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, and Laquan Treadwell. On 3rd and 16, Case Keenum threw the ball on a slant route to Laquan Treadwell, and what did he do? He dropped the ball. If he caught it and maybe, got an extra yard or something, you would have put the Vikings in a much more manageable position on 4th and intermediate or 4th and short. Instead, they had to settle for 4th and 16, which resulted in incomplete and a turnover on downs. They lost to the Carolina Panthers. The fact, with Jarius Wright on the bench, the fact that you were willing to say this is our final possession, let's throw Laquan Treadwell out there, is nothing short of malpractice. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Jarius Wright is not the sexy name receiver that you think of, but he's reliable. He's efficient. He can run routes, get separation. He's got great hands, which I'm sorry, I thought that was the very minimum you needed from an NFL caliber receiver. Not some dude that you drafted in the first round that you're, all right, let's just give him every opportunity, because then you're doing it at the detriment of the team. That game turned out to be the difference maker in the Vikings possibly getting the number 1 seed and having home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Instead, you had to settle for the number 2 seed. There's just no reason to do this. Rick Spielman did a great job putting together a great team last offseason, especially with that offensive line. I give him nothing but credit for that. And Mike Zimmer has done a great job building this defense up ever since he got here, to where last year they were the number 1 ranked defense in 2017. I get that. That's still no excuse for misusing Jarius Wright. Jarius Wright is the better receiver. Why is Jarius Wright below the depth chart, below Laquan Treadwell? It makes no sense. And if you're going to cut him, that's on you. Shame on you for continuously doing this, where these dudes that just suck, and I'm not trying, look, I no disrespect to Laquan Treadwell. I'm not trying to attack dude. I'm sure he's a good guy. But as far as being an NFL receiver, he is awful. I would be surprised if after his first contract that he'll stay in the league. I would be very shocked if he stays in the league after his first contract. The dude can't run routes. He can't get separation. He can barely catch the damn ball. And when he's going for those 50-50 balls that you're trying to, this is what we brought him in for, a big target, he mistimes his jumps. And I'm sorry, this idea that you need a big receiver, no, you don't. You need, first and foremost, you need receivers that can run routes, get separation, and catch the ball. That's number 1. Everything else, as far as being a big target, that's just gravy on top of everything else. So as long as you have those productivity, that type of productivity from your receivers, who cares what size they are? Obviously, it doesn't matter if they keep being efficient at making plays on the field. And you know what? If let's say, you know what, we do need a big target that can break tackles once in a while. If that's the case, then how about you look at the tight end, okay? Kyle Rudolph, he's a good tight end as far as a receiving tight end. But look, when you think about the other tight ends in the league, the big name tight ends in the league, Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Gronk and Kelce specifically, those are big dudes. You have to physically bring them. You have to give everything you've got to bring those tight ends down, because they're strong and they're not going to go down without a fight. In the case of Zach Ertz, he's not necessarily that big tight end like Gronk and Kelce is, but he's so explosive once he gets the ball in his hands. As far as his stride, this dude has a beautiful stride as a tight end. He runs like a wide receiver, just so explosive. And so you're either not going to catch him, or you're still going to have to take everything to bring him down, because he's running so hard and so strong. Kyle Rudolph, the dude can't break a tackle to save his life. And I'm like, you're like, what, 6'5", whatever it is you are, and 240, whatever it is you are. I don't understand. When a defender gets within range of Kyle Rudolph, I'm like, yep, he's going down. And he does every time. And as far as his run, his stride, he's okay. Look, he can run routes. He can catch the ball. I give you that. But as far as what you would like to see from your tight end, like I think back to Visanthe Shenko with Brett Favre in 2009. The dude was explosive, and he was strong, and he had fire in the belly. Kyle Rudolph, he gets the ball, and he's just like, oh, I got to save my energy. Whoa, slow and steady wins the race. He's not a slow guy, but it's like you wish he would just run harder. You wish he would break a tackle once in a while compared to what the other tight ends do. So anyway, stop disrespecting Jarius Wright. Get that dude on the field. Enough of Laquan Treadwell being forced down our throats. Put the best players out there on the field. And Jarius Wright is the third best receiver on this damn team. So anyway, up next, going to talk about the FBI's investigation into the NCAA. Also going to talk about Jimmy Butler getting injured with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Can Andrew Wiggins step up? We'll talk about that next. Is it Coach Tom Thibodeau's fault? Is it the culture of no days off, workout all the time? Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy.
Pretty girls, they'll come my way. We kick it back, let's all just say it's gonna be a good day.
We've been grinding, not caring what the time is. When I'm in my town, I'm